Hello aspirants, this is the continuation of the fundamental rights which we covered yesterday, and today we will be discussing a set of another 10 more questions, and let's begin. So question number 1, who fall under the creamy layer category? Question number 2, explain the Mandal Commission, its recommendations, the Supreme Court response. Very important, very important. Next is, does conviction for untouchability disqualify a person from elections? It's directly talking about the Article 17 of the Indian Constitution, especially the fundamental rights. And Article 17, enforceable against private individuals or not, or is it only against the state actions as per the fundamental rights? One of the predominant features that it is mostly against the state actions. Were national awards like Bharat Ratna ever abolished? Part of Article 18, abolition of titles. Question number 6 or 16. What provisions does Article 18 make regarding titles? Question number 17. Which right under Article 19 was repealed? Are these right against, or are these rights enforceable against private individuals also? Question number 18. Are reasonable restrictions on freedoms mentioned? Question number 19. Does the right to assemble include arms, private property, or strike? And question number 20. Does the right to form associations include right not to join one as well? Right. So if you try and analyze the questions, it however covers the articles that are very important. Article 15, 16, 17, 18 and 19, little bit, just two provisions. However, if you just try and understand, we are just focusing on those nook and corners from where UPSC can actually try and make a question, right? So these are the conceptually tricky areas where you have to keep in mind, because generally Article 16 people knows, it's the prohibition of discrimination on certain grounds during public employment. Article 15 talks about the discrimination on certain grounds which is applicable against on certain grounds, race, religion, caste, sex, right, those things. 17 about untouchability, but people do not know what's exactly inside that, right, especially the restrictions, the reasonable restrictions, the exceptions for that matter, right? So those are the areas which you have to mostly focus on, right? So let's start the discussion. First one, who fall under the creamy layer category? The creamy layer consists of socially, economically advanced members of OBC category who are excluded from the reservation benefits. This concept was introduced in the Indra Sawhney case 1992. Very important, right? It is for those category who can actually taste the creamy layer, who are already getting the benefits. So who is part of the creamy layer? If there is a question, of course it's very detailed, in detail mentioned in the Lakshmikant textbook. All those members who are having the constitutional posts, professional jobs like doctors, lawyers, all of those professionals, and people. There are a lot of other criteria as well, right? So please do check for that in the Lakshmikant textbook. Anyway, the next question: explain the Mandal Commission, its recommendations, and the Supreme Court response. Mandal Commission, very important with respect to your 27% OBC reservations, so OBC quota. It was set up in 1979 by the famous Morarji Desai government, and it recommended 27% of reservation for OBC. However, Supreme Court upheld the reservation but imposed 50% cap and also creamy layer exclusion for those who have already gotten the benefits or who are already in the very reputed positions, right? And then no reservations and promotion for OBC. This was also clearly underscored in that Supreme Court judgment. Very important. So please do keep in mind to go check what the Supreme Court upheld, Supreme Court's verdicts as to what it said about the Mandal Commission. And there are a few things, what happened. Mandal Commission 1979, Morarji Desai government, and then Narsimha Rao government, when it came, certain provisions got added. And then the famous Mandal case, the 1992 Mandal case is also important. What happened, in that. So please do make sure that you go check all of that as well. 13th question: does conviction for untouchability disqualify a person from elections? Article 17, one of the most absolute articles, which is also rightfully available against the private individuals also. Of course, true, a person convicted under laws enforcing Article 17 is disqualified from contesting elections to parliament or state legislatures as well. However, Article 17 also talks about a lot of other things. For example, the word untouchability, is it clearly defined in the Constitution? The answer is no. It is not clearly defined in the Constitution. However, the Mysore High Court clearly gives an idea about what untouchability is, and it once again does not talk about the untouchability in any form, but it talks about the social exclusion that the people of a particular community faced over a period of very long time, centuries for that matter, just because they were born in a particular caste, just because they were born for a particular community, right? So that is what is called as untouchability, was somehow defined by the Mysore High Court. There are few more intricates which you have to go look for beyond what is untouchability, beyond what Article 17 is it absolute or not. Beyond that, there are few more things. Please do check it, right? So anyway, 13 is done. 14th one is Article 17 enforceable against private individuals. Answer is yes. Article 17 abolishes untouchability in all forms, and it's applicable against both the state and also private individuals. Violations are punishable by law. 15th one, were national awards like Bharat Ratna ever abolished? The answer is yes. It was briefly abolished in 1977. Once again, it was during the Morarji Desai government. Like in 1955, the Padma Awards were brought forth, as in it was introduced, and in the Morarji Desai government during that tenure, it was briefly abolished for a particular period of time. It was paused, and once again, when the Indira Gandhi government came up, once again this was resumed, right? But they were restored later. The Supreme Court clarified that the national awards are not titles under Article 18. So Article 18 talks about abolition of those titles which are mostly hereditary, or talks about the nobility, right? These are the two important keywords, hereditary, nobility. So if you know that much, that is sufficient. And however, Padma Awards, Padma Shri, Padma Vibhushan, it is also very important to keep in mind that it has clearly mentioned that it cannot be used as a suffix or a prefix, else the award will be restored back, like it will be taken back. That is also one of the important things. So make sure you go one step further with these articles, because fundamental rights, most important, very, very important. Every year there are questions, and if you see the total weightage in the entire polity, Lakshmikant, after Parliament, if there is any chapter, it is the fundamental rights, right? So please pay attention. Just don't skim through the articles, just dive deep in. All right, especially these articles. Article 17, very important. Article 14, important. Article 16 is also very important. And under Article 16, most importantly, your OBC, the creamy layer, like when was it happened? Like 93rd Constitutional Amendment Act talks about the OBC, creamy layer. And then we have the 103rd Constitutional Amendment Act, which talks about, or which was the amendment for the EWS, right? All of these important intricates are all there. Please pay attention to this, especially for preliminary examination. Sixth one, what provisions does Article 18 make regarding titles? However, Article 18 abolished titles to promote equality. That's what we said. To promote equality, it tries to abolish all those titles, hereditary titles like Raja, Maharaja, Bhoga Raja, and all of those things. It abolished all of that. However, few titles are still allowed. Which are those? The military and academic titles given to them, and also foreign titles, if ever is, or if it is given to any individuals, or if anyone has to accept any foreign titles, President must say yes. President's consent is also very important. Next question, which right under Article 19 was repealed? Are these rights enforceable against private individuals? The answer is the right to property under Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause F, was repealed by the 44th Constitutional Amendment Act 1978, and rights under Article 19 are enforceable only against the state. Keep in mind, Article 19, it is only against the state and not private individuals, right? And also, what constitutes state is also very clearly mentioned, right? State and shareholders. It is only supported, or it is only against, or it can support only, or these rights are there for against the state, not for the private individuals or any companies for that matter, right? Shareholders are also included. So there are few important keywords. That's what I'm telling you. Everybody knows Article 19 subclause 1, what is the amendment and everything, but there are few important micro details which talks about the concept, the concept within the fundamental rights. Please pay attention to that, and keep in mind, it is only, Article 19 is only against the state action and not the private action. And also please pay attention, What is the freedom of speech and expression? There are a few important things which says only these things come under the freedom of speech, like freedom of silence. Freedom of silence is also one of the fundamental rights, only against state action, though that is also that. So those kind of things are very important, right? Please pay attention to that. Please note down all of those things, memorize and remember. Next is, where are reasonable restrictions on freedoms mentioned? So, reasonable restrictions are mentioned in clauses 2, clauses 6 of Article 19. Very important, balancing individual liberty with public interest. Next question, does the right to assemble include arms, private property, or strike? The answer is no, absolutely no. Assembly must be peaceful and without arms, means it should be peaceful, not violent, right? And no right to assemble on private property, that is also there. Nobody can come say that right to form associations, right to strike, and all of that, and cannot come and do all of that in front of my house or my backyard, right? Next, right to strike is not a fundamental right. So this is also that right to strike is not a fundamental right. Okay. Next, question number 20. Does the right to form associations include right not to join one? The answer is yes. The right includes the freedom not to form or join association as well. Okay. Anyway, the 10 questions, we are pretty much done. We have few more questions which we will do in the next following two videos, and fundamental rights will be absolutely completed. And we will do few more things with respect to fundamental rights by taking those important articles, some of the important facts. Facts are also important alongside the concepts. So we will give away another video especially on that. Until then, stay tuned. Keep watching Believers IAS YouTube channel. And this is Madan Gopal. Have a beautiful day.